Well, you got any January plans around here? What do you want to do? We will not, I think it's safe to say, be watching a whole lot of playoff football. The Chiefs officially eliminated yesterday from the NFL playoffs after a 16-13 loss to the Los Angeles Chargers at Friggy Arrowhead Stadium. And Patrick Mahomes, of course, tearing his ACL. And obviously, yesterday was not the ending to the season anybody wanted. But it was, in many respects, a good wake-up call. We could have sat here with another week of hope. I could have had Kendall Gammon on in 1 hour, and we could have said, so you're saying there's a chance. Instead, the whole thing just collapsed yesterday. And oftentimes, that's not the worst thing. It's not the worst thing in sports. It's not the worst thing in business. Instead of hanging on for another week and wondering whether or not you can turn this ship around, you rip the Band-Aid off. The season's a failure. The business is a failure. Whatever you want to make the analogy on, it was not going to happen this season for Kansas City. It wasn't. And now you're clear-eyed going into the offseason. You have no way to really spin this thing in a positive light as to say, well, if this went differently or if that had gone differently, maybe. Nope. You're 6-8. At this point, it wouldn't be the worst thing if the Chiefs just lose out, get to 6-11, and get a top 10 pick in the NFL draft. I'm just saying, I wouldn't really mind that at this point. Would you, Mark?
I wouldn't mind that, but it's going to be tough to lose to the Titans
and
the Raiders.
I know.
Also seems
all right.
like they're trying to tank.
Can I get a 1 and 2? I mean, come on. Can we split the Titans-Raiders game? Jeez.
Maybe the Titans.
Maybe. I mean, they were 11.5-point favorites. Now they're only 3.5-point favorites over the Titans this weekend on the road. I'm just saying, throwing it out there, that's all. But something after the game, as I was listening to some of the post-game press conferences, bothered me. And it was not just Travis Kelce, who once again did not talk to the media. The team loses, and Travis doesn't talk once again. I mean, here's a guy who had a chance to really step to the plate. The quarterback, the leader, the face of the franchise, tears his ACL. He obviously can't talk to the press. Team gets eliminated from the playoffs, first time in the Mahomes era. And Travis Kelce, the 13-year veteran, can't get up there and talk to the media, talk to the fans, say a few words at the podium. He just can't do it. I mean, I was hoping after last week he might get up there and just say a few words, especially given the circumstances of today. But of course not. He can't. He said he'll talk to them midweek. Oh, boy, what a guy.
Such a nice man.
We get Chris Jones, though, at the podium. And if you didn't see or hear this, Chris Jones found out after the game that the team had been eliminated from the playoffs.
So still have fighting chance. Are we out of the playoffs? We are? Okay.
That is this Chiefs season in a nutshell right there. That's it. How does your star defensive player not know going into the game what's on the line? How? Now, I know a few things had to happen, obviously, for this team to be eliminated from the playoffs, but then it doesn't come up. I mean, it's just like, oh, well, just another game. I don't understand that. And to me, it's a perfect microcosm in many ways of what the season has been. So it's over. It's done. There will be no playoffs, and now you just hope that Mahomes can come back for the start of the 2026 season. I mean, I was doing too much chat GPT last night on ACL injuries, trying to break those down. It looks like it's a 9 to 12-month process. So if you want to be optimistic, he'll be back for the start of next season. But that might be a little too optimistic as we get set for the offseason around here.
One thing that got me optimistic was I saw that Carson Palmer bounced back in 8.5 months from an ACL and started in week 1 year, and Joe Burrow in 2020.
That's right. Burrow did. That's right. And then they came back and they got to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That following year. How about that? All right. Well, we're going to make it. It's going to be okay. We're here for you on a Monday morning, and we'll rock and roll. John, good morning, my man. You hanging in there?
I'm good.
Okay.
I
Good.
think Travis's play has spoken enough for us all of the season relative to hearing from him.
Yeah, that's a good point as well. That's a good point. Well, you know what? You'll be commiserating with John on the phones this morning on the caller end. 913-408-7957 is how you can join us all morning here on KCMO. We're going to check in on our buddy Roger Marshall at 8:05. I hope he's doing okay. Kansas U.S. Senator is going to be here. And, yes, we'll talk a little Chiefs, but also we'll talk to Roger Marshall about how he is trying to come up with a bipartisan health care plan to get something done in the wake of all this Obamacare drama with those subsidies coming to an end at the end of this year. Now, we're also following this tragedy from last night. Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle, have died. The Reiners were the two people found dead last night at a Brentwood, California home, according to law enforcement. So a family spokesman has told Variety, "Is with profound sorrow that we announced the tragic passing of Michelle and Rob Reiner. We're heartbroken by this sudden loss. We ask for privacy during this unbelievably difficult time." So it first came out that there were just two people dead at the house of Rob Reiner. But when the ages came out, it was like, okay, Rob's 78, wife Michelle is 68. This was not stacking up well. And then we got confirmation last night that the two bodies that were found at the house were indeed the bodies of Rob and his wife, Michelle. So the officials posting last night on social media that on December 14th at 3:40 p.m., LAPD officers responded to a death investigation in the 200 block of South Chadbourne Ave. Inside the residence, officers discovered two descendants. The identity at that point had not yet been confirmed, but then, of course, eventually, they were able to identify the individuals as Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle. Actors Billy Crystal and Larry David arrived separately at the home last night, according to ABC 7 in Los Angeles. The comedians allegedly stayed briefly before departing. A neighbor on the scene claimed that Billy Crystal looked like he was about to cry, as you would imagine. Representatives for the Reiners did not immediately respond to Fox News' request for comment. So this looks and obviously is an absolute tragedy. There are a lot of rumors out there as to who may be a person of interest. At this point, we're not going to report on that, but there are rumors and some suggestions that the individual involved may be related to Rob and Michelle. But just know that this story is obviously going to soak up the news cycle today because of how tragic it is. Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle dead at 78 and 68 years old in their own homes. So as we get more on this throughout the morning, we will share it with you here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. Meantime, as we roll through it on a Monday morning, the president spoke yesterday. And he was talking about, of course, what he believes to be one of his crowning achievements in these first few months. But is there a way that he can pitch this better? Is there a way that he can sell this better to the American people? We'll talk about it after what he had to say coming up next on KCMO. The president spoke at the White House yesterday. Did you see that coin flip at Army-Navy? Did that coin flip or not? Somebody confirm for me whether or not that coin actually flipped.
That was a conspiracy. I'm not sure if it did or not, but we need to Zapruder that thing.
Oh, man. That was great. Now, the crowd was going nuts for Trump at Army-Navy. They were just, as you would expect, loving the guy. That's his people. That's his crowd on Saturday afternoon at the Army-Navy game. But the coin flip, I've never seen somebody flip a coin like that. And I'm still not convinced the coin actually flipped. But either way, neither here nor there. That was a great game as well. The president spoke from the White House yesterday. And he's trying his absolute best to turn the tide on the issue of the economy and on affordability. Now, he's doing a lot of the right things, right? We are drill, baby, drill. I filled up over the weekend. I paid $2.69 a gallon. Still higher here in Kansas City. I saw Mark was down at Emporia, And was it a Casey's down there that was $2.14 a gallon?
Yep, Casey's had it at $2.14.
Did you get some taco breakfast pizza while you were at it?
I did not.
Okay.
I got some Brahms.
Attaboy. Nice job. You didn't bring me any back?
It would have been cold. It wouldn't have been good.
Yeah, that would have been kind of nasty. Still would have eaten it, though, for next time. All right. So he's getting gas prices down. That's a good thing. We're still getting squeezed here up in the Kansas City area, though. I mean, Emporia and all the outstate areas are like $2.10 a gallon. We're paying still $2.60, $2.70, $2.80 a gallon, which I can't figure out. But anyway, the other thing that the president is obviously dialed in on are his tariffs. He's very proud of these things. He's loved these tariffs from the get-go. I've been kind of in a wait-and-see approach. Inherently, I admit I'm skeptical of them. However, I'm willing to give them time and give them a shot. And if the goal here is to get, obviously, a world where no one is paying tariffs, and in large part, we also get companies to invest in the United States versus investing overseas, that's a win. But this is something that was going to take time, right? Because multinational corporations cannot just change how they go about their operations overnight. They can't just be like, all right, you want us to come there? Sure, we'll go to, Garden City, Kansas. We'll go to Springfield, Missouri. Like, yeah, sure, we'll just take our business operation and move this thing all over the world in a heartbeat. It's not that easy. It takes a little time. So the president, in part yesterday, was talking about this, and here's what he had to say.
To an extent, because without the November 5th election, you would have had a president that didn't have the courage to use tariffs the way they should be used. And because of the tariffs, we've taken in more than $18 trillion. There's never been anything like it. As an example, the previous administration, Sleepy Joe Biden, took in less than $1 trillion in 4 years. We took in more than $18 trillion in 10 months. I'd say that's pretty good, right? I'd say that's pretty good. And if you go back into history, there's never been a country that's taken in more than $3 trillion.
Okay. Now, how's he getting to that number? Because $18 trillion is like half of our national debt. That seems a little frothy. Seems a little optimistic. Well, the actual number, the monthly tariff revenue that the government is collecting right now is about $30 billion a month. So how do you get to $18 trillion, which he said there? Well, you do it because he's talking about a lot of things like Toyota planning to invest billions of dollars here in the United States. You have all the big tech companies who have promised to invest billions in the United States. You have other countries, Japan, who has talked about doing more investment and deals with the United States. So when you stack all those numbers up, well, you're able to somehow cobble together an $18 trillion number. Example, Japan said it would pledge $550 billion. Now, that doesn't mean that they're just cash flowing $550 billion to the U.S., but rather a combination of investments and loans and government-backed loan guarantees. That's how you get to this number. But the bigger question is this. And the bigger thing that the president has to answer is this. These numbers that get thrown out there on tariffs don't mean anything to anybody. Just like the national debt doesn't mean anything to anybody. We talk about it. We say we're $38 trillion in debt. That's not good. And in America in 2025, people say, yeah, well, what about me? What does it mean for me today? I'm just trying to pay bills. I'm trying to get the groceries paid. I'm trying to make my rent. That's all I care about right now. I mean, $38 trillion in debt is just a number that is out there in outer space that doesn't actually mean anything to anybody. So as a result, no one cares about it. It's the same thing with tariffs. It sounds good. I mean, yeah, sure. I mean, collecting more money. But what does it mean to people today in this country as they're getting up, they're going to work on a Monday morning, they're here in Kansas City, or they're anywhere else in the world or the country? What does it mean? How is it going to make people's lives better? That's the question that has to be answered. And that's what really needs to be drilled in here by the White House. We know that, they obviously like their tariff plan, and God bless them for it. That's their prerogative. But if you're going to sell the American people on it, saying we've got all this money coming into the United States. Okay, and what? And what's the answer? And how does that go from here in terms of what it does for everyday Americans' lives? Does it mean lower taxes? Like, what is it? Does it mean better jobs? Obviously, part of this is a manufacturing play by the president. And that's what he's hoping a lot of this investment leads to. Jobs coming here to the United States. And God willing, he's going to be right about that. And that was, to his credit, a part of his pitch yesterday when he talked about that very thing.
We have a country that potentially is geared to have the most incredible golden years ever. We're going to have, it's the golden age. I say it's the golden age of America. When these factories and plants open up by the thousands, Toyota just announced they're going to spend $10 billion building plants to make Toyotas. So they're coming from Germany, they're coming from Japan, they're coming from Canada. Many factories are coming in because they don't want to pay tariffs. Very simple. They're coming in and they're spending they're spending hundreds of billions of dollars. Our car industry lost 58% of their capacity over the years. They went to Europe, they went to Mexico, Japan, they went all over. They went to South Korea. And now we have an age that's coming up, the likes of which I don't think this country has never seen. And I just look so forward to the results. You're going to see results in 6 months to a year. I think you'll see results. We've never had anything like it.
So that was the president yesterday as well from the White House. And obviously he's banking on that. He's banking on a blue-collar manufacturing explosion, and he better hope it comes. I mean, he's got to obviously hope it happens. You have things like when he talks about $18 trillion, Apple claiming a $600 billion commitment. But that includes things like, quote, working with suppliers across all 50 states and Apple TV Plus productions. That's kind of misleading when it comes to what that money actually represents. So I'm just saying, drop the big numbers. Sell us on what this can mean for American workers over the next 6, 12, 18 months. And then you've got your pitch, right? Then you can sell this thing. Then you've got something to work with. Otherwise, you're going to be in a very tough spot because these numbers are just basically all monopoly money to a lot of people, just like the debt is. It goes in one ear, it goes out the other, and then people sit there and they wonder, what is getting better for me today? And thankfully, there are things to point to, like gas. You just got to go fill up an Emporia. But you know what? When it's 50 cents a gallon cheaper, it might actually make sense to go fill up an Emporia, and you still get a deal if you drive back here to Kansas City. Or somebody should be buying gas in mass down in Emporia and then selling it up in Kansas City. That might work out pretty well as well. That might be a good little side hustle for somebody. Just open up on the side of the road or something like that. See how that works out for you. 913-408-7957 is how you join us on KCMO Talk Radio on a Monday morning. Coming up next, a lot of tragedies over the weekend, unfortunately, but two we haven't touched on yet this morning we'll catch you up on and what they mean as well. Coming up on 95.7 FM KCMO and streaming on the KCMO Talk Radio app. Hey, coming in on a Monday morning when there's not a lot of good news. I mean, the Chiefs get eliminated from the playoffs yesterday, but that is obviously much lighter news compared to some of the tragic stories that took place over the weekend. We're following what's going on in Los Angeles. LAPD expected to give an update on Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle, who were stabbed to death in their home yesterday in Brentwood, California. So when that update comes, we'll bring it to you here on KCMO Talk Radio. We have the tragedy at Brown University. 2 students were killed on Saturday. 9 students were wounded after a shooting took place inside a classroom at about 4 p.m. And as of this morning, the police are now still looking for the gunman. Investigators have released a person of interest because they could not find enough evidence connecting this person to the shooting. The mayor in Providence, Brett Smiley, said last night the officials had no way of knowing if the attacker, who killed at least 2 students and injured 9 others, was still in the city. So they are totally clueless. Here is what it sounded like from officials in Providence in the wake of this shooting at Brown University.
Shortly, we will be releasing the person of interest who had been detained earlier today. And the Attorney General can speak a little bit about the rationale for that. But we want to inform the community that that individual will shortly be released from Providence Police.
Okay, so they don't really seem to have any idea who this person is. I won't give the name of the person who was released because if that person is innocent, I wouldn't want to drag their name through the mud. But they thought they had somebody, and they thought they had some interesting background information on him that may have pointed this thing to be in a political direction. But at least as of now, officials are saying, no, that's not the case, and we don't believe that's who this person is. So the whole thing is just an absolute mess up at Brown University. What we do know is that one of the persons killed in this Brown University tragedy and shooting over the weekend is sophomore Ella Cook. Now, Ella Cook was the vice president of the school's College Republican Club. Now, that does not mean that this thing was in any way targeted or motivated by politics. That's not anything that we know right now, but that's just what we know about Ella Cook, one of the two people who was killed in the Brown University shooting. 9 others injured once again. Kendall Turner, a student from North Carolina, is the only one listed in critical condition at this point. The other 8 have stabilized, and 1 has been discharged. So we're still getting a lot of information on this. We don't have a lot of answers to it just yet, but that's obviously one of those tragedies that we're watching and following over the weekend. The other one came from Australia, and this was the most tragic thing that happened over the weekend. Police say father-son were behind the horrifying mass shooting that left 16 people dead, including one of the gunmen, and 40 people hospitalized during a Hanukkah celebration at Bondi Beach in Sydney. Police said on a press conference today that it was a 50-year-old man and his 24-year-old son that carried out the terror attack. The father is dead, according to police. The son is in critical but stable condition in a hospital. And at this point, they are not looking for any additional suspects. The father was a licensed gun owner with 6 legally registered firearms. All 6 have been recovered, some being recovered at the scene of the crime. The commissioner told reporters on Monday afternoon that the father met the eligibility criteria for a hunting license that was used for recreational hunting. So this is now Jewish people targeted during Hanukkah in Australia, John.
At the Bondi Beach incident, in that where I believe a guy bystander identified as a Muslim man actually attacked one of the guys, maybe the son, the shooter. They actually stopped him. He rushed the guy. He's on footage of rushing that guy and detaining him.
I saw that, yeah. That was an amazing clip.
That incident. I know the Brown University, we had the Panasonic thing here. It's been crazy.
Yes, we did. We had the guy Friday afternoon break out a knife at the Panasonic plant out here in DeSoto. So the police are saying that victims of the Sunday attack in Australia range in age from 10 to 87 years old. It's an annual celebration they hold there known as Hanukkah by the Sea. It was scheduled to kick off at 5 p.m. to celebrate the first day of the Jewish holiday by lighting the first candle on the menorah. The shooting happened at about 6:45 p.m. local time. Police said the attack targeted the Jewish community and is obviously being investigated as an act of terrorism. Right now, there are 40 people who are still in the hospital after the shooting, including 2 police officers. The shooting is the worst attack against Jews since October 7th and the Hamas terrorist attacks. Police added that they found evidence of multiple improvised explosive devices in a vehicle near the scene of the attack as well. So, once again, this is another story that we don't have all the answers to at this point, but we're getting more on this today as the morning starts to unfold. Now, one of the things I thought about to tie it back to Kansas City was this stupid stadium story that just won't go away. Now, we know that the Jewish Community Center in Overland Park has come out and said, you know what, we want no part of the Royals here. We don't. And you have to believe that while they don't say this publicly, they just don't want more people and more foot traffic and more attention near the Jewish Community Center. They don't. Because of what Jewish people have to deal with right now, it's like, we're not really interested in 40,000 people coming to our backyard and bringing attention to this part of town with the Jewish Community Center right down the road. And they can't really say that part out loud, but it's a fact. If you are a Jewish Community Center, you're trying to kind of lay low these days, as sick and twisted and wrong as that is. You kind of have to. I mean, we live in a world now where anti-Semitism continues to be on the rise. On, not just the far left, also parts of the far right. We know, obviously, that, extremism in the Muslim community is very much anti-Semitic. We know what's going on in that part of the world as well. And you bring it back here to the United States, and the one thing that the Jewish Community Center is not interested in is figuring out how to bring tens of thousands of more people and more foot traffic into basically their part of town. I know that 119th and all in that area is not like the sticks or anything like that. It's a core part of our community. But in this current climate that the Jewish community finds itself in, they're not looking for a reason to have more security, to have more attention onto who is walking in, who is walking around their Jewish Community Center. Now's not the time for that. And when I saw the story in Australia yesterday, maybe it's sick, but I'm always thinking about, what does it mean for Kansas City just to have any tie to Kansas City? And my first thought was, this is the kind of stuff that the Jewish Community Center wants no part of. They do not want more people hanging around certain parts of town, which just leads them to have more security in the wake of what Jewish people are going through right now in America and obviously around the world. And it's a sad reality of where we find ourselves today. O'Reilly is right there. We've talked about that over the last week and a half or so. Trump is basically saying, you know what, for the midterms, it's going to be about me. And it makes sense. That's their best bet right now to try to hold on to the House. Not sure it's going to work, but Trump is their best bet. And those people that are like, well, he's just going to trigger more people to vote against him. Those who are triggered by TDS every day are counting down to the midterms. They're going to vote anyway. So you might as well see if Trump can juice up his own base and his own voters to get out there and try to basically hang on to the House. It makes sense. It's the right play. It is the right move. So the president was at the Army-Navy game over the weekend. That was, of course, the standalone college football game on Saturday. And there was a great moment before the game. First off, the crowd was going nuts for the commander-in-chief. And then we got the coin toss. And the question right now is whether or not the coin ever flipped on the coin toss. Because the president had the coin in his hand. And instead of doing like a flick, where you have the coin on your thumb and you flick it in the air, he kind of has the coin in his palm of his hand. And he just kind of tosses it.
The whole notion was funny. He had the black gloves on, and he's doing the coin, and he's showing it, and it's like a magician. Like he's going to make it disappear at first.
Yes,
right?
That's so good.
So then he lays it flat in his palm, but then he's like what you do when you nurse a little bird back to health and you want it to fly away. You just kind of scoop your hands up in the air. And
yes, that is so good, John. That's exactly what he did. It was like, yes, he was letting a bird fly back into the wild. It was
like the coin was going to shoot out and start flipping end over end.
Oh, my gosh, that's outstanding. And it's 110% accurate in terms of what the coin flip was yesterday, because it doesn't look like the coin actually flips. It's like he perfectly had this coin in his palm. He throws it in the air. It's more of like a toss in the air.
Yeah, from the elbow.
And it just lands.
Yeah, it's motion from the elbow stiff.
Exactly. So it never actually flipped. Now, here's what it sounded like on Saturday ahead of the Army-Navy game.
Captains,
and everyone in attendance, welcome to Baltimore for the Army-Navy football game. This is your umpire, Anthony Gibson. My name is Tim Rich, and it's our crew's honor to be working this game today with you all. Joining me for the coin toss, it is my honor and privilege to introduce the Commander-in-Chief, our President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump. Mr. President, thank you for your leadership and your continued support of our service members and our veterans. It's an honor to have you here today.
Great honor. Thank you very much.
There we go.
Men and women who wear the uniform, to all of our veterans and their family members, thank you for your service. Thank you for protecting this great country. And thank you for protecting the freedoms that we enjoy each and every day. To the cadets, the midshipmen, and everyone watching around the world, this is the 126th plane of America's game.
How do you not love that from the lead umpire in the game? You know, in a college sports world that is being inundated by lack of loyalty, private equity money, NIL money flying all over the place, you still have these young men who are playing football basically for fun at places like Army and Navy, then going to serve their country. And I know that there's a lot of changes happening right now in college sports, but getting to appreciate this Army-Navy game as a standalone game, typically always the second Saturday in December, is must watch. Now, I was bouncing around because Villanova was also playing on Saturday against Pittsburgh, but I watched a little before the game. And then, you know, because it turned out to be a good game, I ended up watching the fourth quarter. And it is what college football used to be at its core. And obviously, these young men in particular take it to the next level, knowing they are going to serve their country after the fact. Just an outstanding game and moment, and rah-rah America for Army and Navy. And what was a very difficult news weekend. A lot of bad news coming out over the weekend as well. We'll catch you up in the latest on that front, what we know about these top stories, and what we expect to come out today, coming up next on KCMO. Well, the numbers we have this morning, at least 15 people have died, 40 have been hospitalized following an anti-Semitic attack on a Hanukkah event at Bondi Beach in Sydney, Australia. The numbers have fluctuated between 15 and 16 dead, but the latest I'm seeing here from Fox News is that 16 people were killed in this attack. Two gunmen, who Australian authorities have identified as a father-son, opened fired on a crowd of more than 1,000 people who had gathered at Bondi Beach. The event is called Hanukkah by the Sea, a decades-long tradition to celebrate, of course, the start of the Jewish holiday. And you have victims who are anywhere from 10 to 87 years old. This is the worst attack against the Jews since October 7, 2023, on the attack by Hamas. So we're getting more information on this throughout the morning here on KCMO. When we get more, we'll, of course, bring it to you. But you also had the tragedy at Brown University over the weekend where a couple of people were shot in a Jewish professor's classroom. I don't know if there's a tie there. We don't even have anybody arrested yet in the Brown University shooting. There was a person who was a suspect. He was a person of interest, and he has been released. Now, there's 1,000 cameras on the Brown University campus. And if you were following this story over the weekend, I mean, it was a joke how the authorities were handling this. They were getting things wrong left and right. They didn't have any answers as to what was going on. And it has been an abomination of an investigation in the initial, hasn't even been 48 hours. And they have screwed this thing up so many which ways. So they had this person in custody. He's now been released, and they're basically back to square one. So these two stories have really obviously taken over the news cycle over the last 24 hours or so. And you think about this time of year, holidays, Christmas, obviously Hanukkah getting underway, and everything in particular that Jews have been through over the last it's been a long time, obviously, but it's been heightened over the last 26 months or so since October 7th of 2023. And now here we are getting Hanukkah underway, and in a country that really doesn't have any gun violence. I mean, the people that are anti-gun always like to point to Australia as basically this utopia that never has any gun violence. And now here we are talking about Australia and this tragedy there and the worst attack on Jews in 2+ years since the horrific terrorism that they suffered at the hands of Hamas on October 7th of 2023. Now, I saw this story in the National Review, and they shared here, and I didn't see this until I read the story, that on Friday, a video was unearthed by the IDF, that's the Israel Defense Forces, and it shows hostages who had been kidnapped by Hamas holding a Hanukkah service before they were killed. So 6 men were praying in this video that was released by the IDF. And you can see in the video, as you're watching it, they were reminded that there's no human emotion that is not expressed in our shared book of Scripture. You can see that these individuals still have confidence in God. There's a faith, there's hope, there's even joy. And here's the thing, love and joy are really what evil hates beyond anything else. Love and joy are exactly what evil hates. And that was on display yesterday as well in what happened in Sydney, Australia. You look at these hostages, and they know that their end is near. They understand that. But despite the darkness, there's this stubborn, almost enthusiastic joy that even terrorism could not subdue. I will share this on my personal social media pages so you can see this video for yourself. But this video gets released on Friday by the Israel Defense Forces. And to see this video and then know what happened over the weekend in Australia, back to back. Of course, the Israel Defense Forces don't know what's going to happen in Australia over the weekend, but having these two things back to back, it does bring you inspiration knowing what these terrorists were trying to do to these kidnapped hostages, and the fact that these kidnapped hostages who knew what was going to end up happening to them, they knew what their fate was going to be. But they still kept incredible faith and amazing joy in the wake of it. Evil may have taken their lives, but boy, did these individuals hold on to their joy. And I know on a news day like today, that may be tough to do. I mean, you got the story out of Australia, you got Brown University, you got Rob Reiner and his wife being found dead in their Los Angeles home. There is a lot of really bad news this morning. I also think it puts it into perspective, let's be honest, with the Chiefs. We are all bummed out this morning. We haven't seen this team not play in the postseason now in 11 years. Mahomes has a torn ACL. Who knows when he's playing next? But it does put sports into some perspective. Now, it's why we also love sports, because it's a great escape from the everyday realities that we deal with. And trust me, I'm as big a sports fan as you are. I was watching KU on Saturday as they hung on in overtime against NC State. I was thinking about Mark, wondering what cockamamie parlay he had drawn up for that game. I'm sure it didn't include Melvin Council hitting 9 3-pointers on Saturday. I imagine that didn't happen for you.
Yeah, I missed that one.
Yeah, I think we all did. K-State was beating Creighton. Watched a little bit of that game as well on Saturday. So I'm a big a sports fan as there is. And many of you obviously watch sports as well. It's our escape from the crazy of the real world. But it is ultimately an escape. That's what it is. That's what it's always intended to be. And given what the news is this morning and so many of these tragic stories, and of course what happened on Friday at the Panasonic plant, you heard from John in the news on that front on Friday. Boy, it has been a rough couple of days in a time of year that's supposed to be about joy and supposed to be about celebration and supposed to be about, faith and everything that comes with this time of year, starting anew, whether it's Christmas, New Year's, and everything else going on, Hanukkah. So putting things into perspective right now, I think, can be valuable and also can be important, even though, of course, we're all bummed out. Getting up this morning, going to work, and knowing that we will not be watching any playoff football in this town. It's not going, well, at least not with Kansas City involved. You might be watching the Bills, and I said this to someone yesterday. I said, you know what? This is going to be the year I root for Josh Allen. I want Josh Allen. Mark's choking on his breakfast in there. I'll root for Josh. I'll root for the Bills fans to get over the hump.
If he doesn't get it this year, I don't know when he will.
Well, that's what I mean. I can't root for the Broncos. I can't root for the Chargers. The Patriots still disgust me. The Jaguars are like, whatever. The Texans, who else are you going to root for? Let's let these Buffalo fans have their moment. Let's let Josh Allen have his moment. And put a Super Bowl in Buffalo. I'm fine with that.
I'll root for them to get to the Super Bowl, but if they're playing the Seahawks, I can't do it.
I didn't say they had to play the Seahawks. All right, let's do this. Let's do a Lions-Bills Super Bowl. Lovable losers.
That'd be fun.
All right?
I would like that.
Lovable losers in the Super Bowl. Lions-Bills. Let's go. I could root for either of those two franchises to finally get their Super Bowl and get over the hump. I'm fine with that. We'll see how it plays out. Really three awful stories coming out of the weekend that we are keeping tabs on this morning. You have Rob Reiner and his wife found dead in their homes in their home in Brentwood, California yesterday. You have the tragedy in Australia where Jews were targeted, worst attack against the Jews since October 7th of 2023. And, of course, those Hamas terrorist attacks where 15 people were killed, 40 injured in Sydney, Australia, in a targeted attack on the first day of Hanukkah. And then you had a school shooting at Brown University. It took place on Saturday, 2 killed and 9 injured. And one college basketball coach decided that she was going to insert herself and her politics into the moment. And this came from the USC, University of Southern California, women's basketball coach Lindsay Gottlieb. After her team got destroyed by UConn, she decided to address what happened at Brown University. That is her alma mater. And take a listen to what she had to say, USC women's basketball coach Lindsay Gottlieb, over the weekend on Saturday.
Before we start, I came out from the game and had a million text messages about a mass shooting at my alma mater, Brown. So that's hard. Doesn't need to be this way. Sending thoughts and prayers to my teammates who have kids there, to the parents who have to worry about their children. I'm just going to end it with that, but just to say we're the only country that lives this way. The college football cycle has been in the news a million times, and are we going to report about this? It's the guns. We're the only country that lives this way. Parents should not have to worry about their kids. I have a teammate who has a daughter who is in the basement of a library because they don't know what's going on there, and she's flying there tomorrow. So just wanted to start with that because I would be remiss if I didn't mention that's going on, and hopefully everyone, is safe and praying for peace for those who've lost people. And that's that. It's more important than basketball. We can all be better, right, with that.
Okay. Now, as is always the case, you have a tragedy, and some people want to get hyper emotional and immediately make it about the politics. But, of course, what we found out less than 24 hours later, what happened at Bondi Beach in Australia, you have a country that has some of the strictest gun laws on the planet, and you had a much worse mass shooting there. Without having any idea on the motivation of people who are committing these heinous acts of crime, this violence, this evil that is on display, sadly, far too often in this country and around the world. To have a college basketball coach jump on her press conference after, by the way, her team gets blown out by 18 points and just go right down this rabbit hole onto this narrative. I mean, maybe that's okay. Certain levels of higher education, maybe universities actually don't really get bothered by any of this. But I'll just tell you this. If I'm the AD, if I'm her boss in that moment, I'm like, listen, I understand you're emotional. I understand it's your alma mater, but you got to stay in your lane here. This is not what we're paying you for. Okay, I don't pay you to go out there and first off get blown out by 20 points, and then after you get smoked, you go up to the podium and you make it all about you and what happened at Brown and your alma mater, and then, of course, politics and the guns, and that's what you're doing. Now, if you want to go on your social media afterwards and say something as just you, Lindsey Gottlieb, the head women's basketball coach at USC, maybe you could justify that. But that's not what you're getting paid by USC to do here. And that's where it's like, you got to understand the moment. But I guess if you just don't care or you just think that you're bulletproof, no pun intended, maybe you just are like, you know what, fine, I'm just going to let it rip. But boy, what happened a day later in Australia takes the narrative and destroys that narrative and puts an end to that narrative. 913-408-7957. That's our text line and our studio line in KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. Streaming, of course, on the KCMO Talk Radio app as always, or you can stream us on KCMOTalkRadio.com. That's where you can always find us as well. As it looks like I just see this coming across. The President of the United States will have a press conference today, 2 o'clock Central Time. Mexican border defense medal presentation. Huh. I guess he's going to highlight the wins on the border being shut down. A medal presentation. Who's going to win that? The Border Patrol? All right. Well, I'm just seeing this roll across the bottom of the screen here on Fox News, so we'll keep an eye on that on KCMO Talk Radio. 913-408-7957 is how you join us on a Monday morning. Let's go to Stu. He's on KCMO in Rosedale. What's up, Stu? Good morning.
Hey, Mongo. You're very wise to point out that the Brown alumna jumped right away on calling for gun control. Are you aware that the Australian government is also reacting in the same way and promising even more stringent gun control?
I had not seen that yet.
Yes. And there's a little detail that I noticed about the videos of these gunmen in Australia, the father and son team. I mean, isn't that inspiring, for a father and son? But did you notice that both of them had rifles with slings, but they didn't use the slings? Okay, it only takes, there's various ways to sling up, for shooting a rifle, and the simplest, the hasty sling, takes literally 2 seconds. But they didn't even bother to do that. They didn't bother to take any positions where they were protected, which is why the one civilian was able to tackle the one guy. And by the way, that civilian was a Syrian. We don't know if he was a Muslim. There are Syrian Christians. Yeah. I'd like to believe that he was something other than a Muslim. But it just goes to me, it goes to just they were like shooting fish in a barrel, They knew that the people were unarmed because of the gun laws in Australia. And it just goes to me to reinforce the very cowardly nature of jihad.
Listen, there's obviously you're not wrong. There's a lot about this that we are going to continue to find out about in the hours and days to come. And what we do know right now, obviously, is that these individuals were clearly targeted. Hanukkah celebration, first day, and it's the deadliest attack since October 7th. That's what we know. And you're right to note we don't know the faith of the individual who has been seen all over social media and all over the world stopping one of the gunmen on Sunday in Australia. But that person, whoever he is a hero. And hopefully we'll learn more about him and his background and who he is in the days to come as well. But to your original point there, Stu, I did see this after you noted it, that, yes, the Australian Prime Minister is already out there and trying to promote tougher national gun laws, as if somehow that is what motivated these individuals or gave these individuals the opportunity to pull off the heinous crime that they did over the weekend in Australia. I mean, that's just, wow. You want to talk about being out of touch? That's it right there. That's it. That's as out of touch as it could possibly get.